Andrew Urquhart with you on a Friday morning. Of course, was it last week? Gosh, it seems like a while ago. But the budget announcement and, well, great news for the so-called squeezed middle. Everybody gets a massive amount of cash, about $25 a week on average, I understand. And one of the questions that people may be asking is, what will I do with all this extra money that I've got? Well, somebody who, very, very much knows about what to do with money, Dan Mazengarb, CEO of Christian Savings. Kia ora, welcome to the program today.
Kia ora. Good to see you, Andrew. I do notice that you're wearing a scarf. Is that sort of a recessionary measure, sort of Rhema not putting on the heaters just
No,
because of the cost? No?
it's because I'm a fashionista, actually.
You do look good.
It's more of a fashion statement than it is a statement of climate control. But thank you for noticing. Dan, you look very nice yourself. But back to the finance question, though, and this is like the question you asked me. This is a bit of a personal one. So, have you figured out what you're going to do with the extra $25 or whatever it is for you and your household? I mean, that's going to need some prayer about an investment strategy, surely.
Definitely. I can tell you without even consulting with my wife what we're going to do.
Oh
with
my
that
goodness!
money.
Yeah.
We're in the process of trying to build a house, so
Okay.
we're in that phase of taking on a big mortgage because we're relatively young, and so every spare penny is going to go away trying to bite down principal to reduce the interest costs on our mortgage. So that's where our $30 a week or whatever it is going to be is going to go.
Pennies in the jar, as it were. And hey, that may be the case for a number of people. And I suppose it's something to consider whenever you're in a situation where you have either an increase in income or, in this case, well, effectively it works out to be an increase in income because there's a smaller slice taken off your income and given back to you. But when you're in a situation of increased income, particularly with interest rates at the moment, something to consider would be saying, hey, why don't we increase our regular mortgage payments by the amount of increase in our income? Is that an effective strategy, or is that just whistling in the wind, Dan, in your opinion?
Well, for some, it could be a valid strategy. I think when we're talking about the middle and lower, New Zealanders, for them, as inflation has skyrocketed and the cost of living has gone up, it might mean just returning to a steady state. Maybe they've cut some, swimming lessons for their kids, or other education things for their kids, or some will be doing it tough and living on very, very tight budgets for their food. So it might mean slightly healthier eating. For some further up the line, maybe it means that they'll be excited because they can start buying Makona Instant again rather than just Greg's. So it is all relative. But I think that's an important point to make, is that inflation has been robbing us over the last year. And so, it's not like we have a whole bunch new spending power. This is sort of an offset to the theft that's been going out of our back pockets. And that's, I think, probably a better way to be looking at it. I mean, for some, over the last year, they may have realized that they can live on less. And so putting that extra money against their mortgage or paying down other debt might actually be a good idea.
And I appreciate, for a lot of the people listening to this program, if they are in fact getting a tax rebate of any level, that's about a quarter of the rent increase that they've having to pay in the last period of time as well. So it is perhaps questions about paying down the mortgage may be irrelevant to people in that particular point of view. Wanting to look, I suppose, more generally, because it's always a balancing act, isn't it? I mean, that's what budgets are, really, a balancing of priorities, a balancing of income versus expenditure. But there will be impacts not just on individual taxpayers, but impacts on the way in which our economy performs, taking signals from the finance minister and from government policy.
That's right. And it is good to note that there has been a bit of a decrease in business confidence. And and it's interesting. I haven't seen any big flashy headlines in the news or in other media places, but anecdotally, you do see more businesses struggling. People tell me in the construction industry, slower pipelines. I think car dealerships, there's a few more of those going to liquidation. So, you do hope that if the government's forecasts about where inflation is going to go, that they will have more confidence that interest rates will drop. And I just saw a post very recently that somewhere in Europe, or maybe it was Canada, has just dropped their OCR, and what that's done is it's led to other countries saying, "Oh, we're going to drop ours," and then so our forecasts are showing that the OCR might drop earlier, giving other businesses a bit more confidence about the future.
It's kind of like OCR dominoes. Thanks, Canada, for pushing the first one down, and hopefully it'll still have some momentum by the time it gets to us at the bottom of the world. In terms of, I suppose, economic priorities as well, and the government, as well as tax cuts, they're borrowing some extra money. There's the projection of when we'll be back in surplus, what this means for where New Zealand sits on a global stage. Any thoughts or comments on that, Dan?
Yeah, look, I think I did hear that our sort of sovereign debt, the amount of debt that the government has, is only a few percent higher than the OECD average. So we're not way out, but they are wanting to bring that under control. Look, I think the important things from my perspective is the investment in some of our key infrastructure. And if you don't if you don't build big enough pipes underground, we call them poo pipes or water pipes or whatever you want to call them, you can't build all the housing you need to put, and so, or if you don't build big enough roads, you can't, expand other businesses. So I think that infrastructure and investment will be helpful for the other parts of the economy to grow. I think investing in healthcare and education is really important, but it's not like those have immediate economic benefits, right? It's not like getting more nurses on the front line or police is going to mean that businesses are going to thrive more, or there's less of a direct link there. So, I think they are looking to spend, reduce their spending, and we hope that does mean a bit more of a sustainable economy.
So, generally the reaction from markets, generally the reaction from the business community to the budget. I mean, different people will bring their political views in on this one, but from a purely economics point of view, is it pushing in a direction that you believe we need to economically, keeping the politics out of it, Dan?
Yeah, look, I think, whether it's blue or red, I don't envy those making these budgets, right? That they've got to make some decisions to increase spending somewhere, which means that 13 cancer treatments can't be funded. So there's always going to be losers out there and winners. I think my sense is that the market's probably predicted most of what this budget is. There's no real surprises there. And I think if people believe the forecasts, and I'm not saying they're not believable, but forecasts are only forecasts, then with inflation coming back under control in 2024 as the government hopes, that's good news. And so I think the markets do feel more positive with those forecasts of inflation coming down, especially.
And if we can grow our productivity, if we can grow our GDP, as it were, it grows the whole cake. Even a smaller tax slice of that cake is more revenue for the government. But again, that's a longer term strategy, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they do forecast real GDP to go from negative 0.2, so negative, we're in a recession, up to 1.7 by 2025. So, and then further on from there. So that's good news for our economy to be growing. And we just, obviously need to make sure that it's sustainable so that we don't get back into inflationary territory again.
We certainly appreciate your wisdom and insights. Of course, more information about investing in the kingdom of God and the work that you do at Christian Savings, christiansavings.co.nz. Dan, thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.